Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Vetiva Capital and our media partners at Frontier Africa Reports, I would like to welcome you all to another edition of our breakfast meeting on this Tuesday, the 27th of April, 2021. This meeting is set to last for 30 minutes and is also being recorded. The audio file may be shared with third parties. The meeting is also being broadcast live on our Vetiva online page on Facebook. After all speakers are done today, we will give our participants an opportunity to ask questions if they have any. We will get the usual rundown of the fixed income and equity space for the traders for those respective markets, after which we will conclude with our media partners from Frontier Africa Reports for their Pan-African updates. We will now start off with Sheung, who will take us through the equity space. Good morning, Sheung.
Good morning, Chidoze, and good morning, everyone. We start off reviewing performance of the Ghana Stock Exchange and BRV in the first trading session of the week. In Ghana, the index started the week on a negative note, though marginal, as the benchmark index retraced gains we saw in the markets in previous week with a negative 8 bips close. Farm milk was the lone gainer in the session with 4.35 price appreciation, though this wasn't sufficient to lift the market as Unilever continued on its poor outing with a 9.77% loss for the day. Year to date remains 20.63% in the market as we expect a mixed session today. Briefly in BRVM, like we mentioned yesterday, the market took a breather from the consecutive gains, posting a daily decline of 23 bips on the back of profit taking on counters that have seen appreciation in recent sessions. Year to date, the market remains in a positive at 1.72%, and we will likely see we'll likely see another session of profit taking today, based on what we saw yesterday. So quickly moving to Nigeria, the week started on a positive note, with the ASI posting a marginal 4 basis point upward close. WAPCO, Nigerian Breweries, and GT were all lifted in the session as investors took profit in Zenith and Dangote Sugar following their positive close in previous session. Looking at the activity level, this was however mixed. We saw increase in volume traded, while turnover fell by 32%. Tier 1 banks dominated the session, accounting for about 61% of market activity. But specifically, Transcorp was the main toast of investors in the day. We saw over 92 million units traded, and it was lifted 10% in the session, following a very impressive Q1 2021 result, where the company's bottom line grew over 2,400%. So we also continue to look out for that stock and any other name as Q1 result continue to come into the market. So going into today, we expect to see more Q1 earnings release, which will set market tone for the day as investors react to these results. So I think, like we mentioned yesterday, that if we continue outliers as well as results that are better than expected, investors will continue to react positively. And if we see results that are significantly lower than where investors are seeing it, or maybe a significant dip in earnings year on year or quarter on quarter, you will see investors punishing such stock. So we'll continue to watch, and then we'll bring such feedback to the house. We also believe investors will continue to take position in counters that have declared dividend as their qualification date approaches, which we believe will lead to some buy frenzy in such names. So maybe names like I think Dangote Cement. Dangote Cement qualification date is today, so we saw some sort of buy friends in the name yesterday, though it still closed at 220, but it traded as high as 224 yesterday. But overall, market remained mixed with a quiet tone, and that's what we expect today. Thank you very much. That'll be it for equities market.
Thank you very much, Sean. We will now move to Amorige for fixed income and currencies. Good morning, Amorige.
Good morning, Chidoze. Good morning, everybody. I'll just quickly take us through fixed income activities for yesterday. I'll start with the money market. The money market opened yesterday about 243 billion shorts. Despite the coupon inflows of 113 billion that came in yesterday, the system remained extremely liquid at an estimated 161 billion shorts after taking into consideration the coupon of 113 billion and also backing out CBN repos. As a result, we saw money market retrade between 13% to 15% as the long expected FAC inflows were nowhere in sight. So we believe that the money market will trade at lower levels today, probably between 11 to 12%, as the much anticipated FAC credit comes in and there's an additional coupon inflows of about 46.9 billion coming into the system today to ease system liquidity. Moving on to the FS market, the parallel market remains stable to trade at 485 naira to $1, while the even window trade at here of 436.55 naira to $1, closing at 410 naira to $1. There an industry turnover increased slightly to $47.25 million yesterday from the $32.01 million recorded on Friday. So we believe the Naira will continue to hover around these levels in the interim. Moving on to the Treasury-based market, the T-based market resumed with wide bid and ask spread seen across the mid to long end of the benchmark curve. We also witnessed disparity between the bid and ask in the OMO segment. Majorly, we saw demand on the long-dated OMO paper, the April 12th, but there was really no offer to match the bid at that level. Overall, there was really no concentration of interest as buyers sought to take advantage of the illiquid system to get very high rates, while sellers were unwilling to offer at those levels because they were expecting that FAC inflows will come into the system to ease the current strained liquidity. So our expectation for today is that the T-bills market will trade on a bearish note until after the NTB auction, which is happening tomorrow. So for the bonds market, we saw a mixed to bearish sentiment persist in yesterday's trading session, with most of the demand skewed towards the mid to long end of the bond curve as players look to reinvest their coupon credit of about 113.41 billion. We saw bids on the 2026 around 12.5%, while bids on 2034 and 2050 were around 13.5% and 13.9% respectively. However, the offers on those maturities were shy of those bids. The offer seen on the 2026 was around 12.10%, while on the 2034 was around 30.15%, and the 2050 was around 13.77%. So our expectation for today is that the bonds market will trade on a bearish note on the back of the current strained system liquidity. That will be all for fixed income. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Morgan. We will now move to Sheikh from CGF Burst for their own updates. Good morning, Sheikh.
Hello, good morning. The financial market, the regional financial market via BRVM has been showing some exciting results over the last week. It closed with its fourth biggest success since its history. This has been shown with the BRVM composite, which over the last week started trading at over 4,600 billion CFA, meaning its highest level in the last 12 months. This week was mainly marked by the investors rushing towards trading, and it was mainly motivated by the publication of the annual results of companies like Nestle Filtisac, SMB, which has been in this upward trend since the last few weeks, SIB, SAF, which are all showing excellent results, but also bigger potential. So the BRVM Industries is basically taking itself out with the performance of over 13.5% because of the dynamism of these companies that I listed just before. The SMB Ivory Coast has progressed by over 42.9% just over the last week. Investor rushed into purchasing the stock since the publication of its annual results. This was one of the most important transactions over the last 10 years for the stock. In terms of Nestle Ivory Coast, it displayed also an excellent result with 22.03% skyrocket share price. This was mainly due to the great performance over 2020, which was also coupled with the great dividend that were distributed. Just as an information, there were several stocks also that performed very well. CITAB Ivory Coast 21.8%, CIE Ivory Coast 15.94%, and Sucrivoire 15.09%. In terms of the lower performance, we're talking about Cetao Ivory Coast, which showed a counter performance with minus 6.67%, and Safka with 5.41%, which was for Safka. It's right now it's trading at its lowest since the company is trading in its history. In terms of the bond market, it closed at 6.3 trillion CFA compared to last week, showing just a decline of 0.24%. The weekly value traded at around 1.36 billion, mainly marked by the transaction by the Burkina Faso Treasury bond 2020-2028 maturity. In terms of the treasury market, over the last week, issuers requested in the Wemi region, mainly marked by Senegal and Ivory Coast, a total of 80 billion. The market offered a coverage of 348%, but only 31.6% was retained, totaling 88 billion CFA. The issue of the 60 to 120 month Senegal Treasury bond on April 23rd was the most popular, which is the one that offered the coverage rate of over 430%. For the coming week, it is expected that Ivory Coast will issue a Treasury bill with the maturity of 3 months, and Treasury bonds too, as well as Burkina Faso, Benin, and Togo, which will be issuing Treasury bonds, and this is totaling 170 billion. That's it for the BRVM.
Thank you, Sheikh. We will now wrap up with Temple from Frontier Africa Report and their update. Good morning, Temple.
Good morning, and let's take off from eastern part of Africa quickly, where the Central Bank of Kenya says stiff penalties have now been put in place for rogue and digital money lenders in that country. There are so many operators that are leveraging the data of a lot of individuals in Kenya, and so the government there is now taking steps to bring all those into account and, of course, tame all that kind of trend. The bill has already been passed, or has already been presented rather, before the parliament, and if passed, we understand that unlicensed digital money lenders could attract imprisonment term of around 3 years, and of course they could be fined up to some 5 million Kenyan shillings or both at the end of the day. The Capital Market Authority in that country has also pledged them 5 million Kenyan shillings for whistleblowers, something that will give a bit of transparency to the capital market space, the stocks, bonds, and treasury bills markets generally. One other interesting story in that region is that in Ethiopia, yesterday we got the news that MTN, Vodacom, and Safaricom have now submitted bid for full licensing in that country. As we all know, Ethiopia, with 110 million population, has been trying to now liberalize its markets away from the communism kind of economy that they've been running on along. So if this is approved, it's something that will also open up that space more. Another big story for us will be the price of copper, which is a key metal and a bellwether metal that has now been rising lately. There was a valuation done yesterday that it has risen, but the price has risen by as much as 2.4% to over $9,780 per metric ton in London specifically, and that's like the highest since 2011. We understand it settled around $9,750 per metric ton yesterday at about 6 p.m., 6 p.m. yesterday. And we understand it has also gained more than 26% so far this year. Finally, South Africa has now lifted the licensing threshold for small-scale power generation projects. And this is one challenge that a lot of the miners in South Africa has actually been having for some time. As you all know, that South Africa is home to several major miners in the continent. And they've now stipulated 10 megawatts as a threshold for requiring a license. And of course, there will be need for re-registration with the energy regulator, NERSA, in that country. For those that follow South African stories well, recently the president made, earlier in the year, President Ramaphosa actually made a speech promising an expansion of such thresholds to around 5,000 megawatts for small-scale power generating companies, miners, and some other heavyweight industries that will require power generation by themselves. However, the reaction to that is that a lot of analysts are not content with that. They said what had been submitted to the president was around 50 megawatt threshold for small-scale power generation, but now that he's granting just 10 megawatts, they really want more, basically. These are the stories we're tracking. Frontier Africa reports for now. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. We have now come to the question and answer portion of the meeting. If you would like to speak and ask your question, you may raise your hand on the app and we will give you an opportunity to ask a question. Or if you're joining us on Facebook, you may use the comment function and we will treat your question. Thank you. I see we have no questions today. That means we have come to the conclusion of our meeting. On behalf of Vetiva Capital and our media partners at Vetiva Africa Reports, we'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. We continue to encourage everyone to remain safe. Okay, I see that Sheung has his hand raised. Sheung, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you, Chidozie. My question will go to Sheikh from our partners in Cote d'Ivoire. Just check for we've seen the market BRVM, like you also alluded to. We've seen decent appreciation generally with specific stocks, and which has led to appreciation also in the benchmark index. What are you seeing for the week? Like I mentioned while I was speaking, we saw some little pullback yesterday. Do you think this will do you think this will continue for the end till the rest of the week, or are you just saying it's just that, do you think that's just a minor pullback? Because I think the market lost yesterday just 23 bips. Do you think this is minor, or do you think we'll continue to see this decent appreciation in the index? Looking at the fact that some results are still coming in and investors are still reacting positively to these results. Thanks.
So I believe that given the excitement shown by the various investors in the last few weeks, there is obviously this fear that there might be a market decrease, and a lot of them are trying to capitalize on once they see the appreciation, they try to exit. But obviously, with the new results that would be expected in the coming weeks, I believe that the trend is based on the performance of these companies, and so far, the perspective of the results are quite positive. I believe that you may see in some of the stocks that the upcoming results coming, you will see some market appreciation coming. I think right now when you see a company like SMB that showed a 23% increase last week and then 43% this week, a lot of them will just be trying to capitalize and benefit from those from their capital gains. And the idea is, I believe, when they will announce the level of dividends and when they will be distributed, a lot of them will be coming back to the market, and we should see at least a certain appreciation. I don't know if that responds to your question.
Yeah, yes, it does. Thank you. Just to follow up, just to also check what are your stock, maybe like top 3 stock picks in that market.
Upcoming, you mean? Hello?
I'm sorry?
You mean the this week or the previous week?
No, this week, your top stock picks that investors can that I think will do well. But generally, maybe for the next 6 months, what's like 3 top stocks that you think are still slightly that are not reached their potential, maybe slightly undervalued, that investors can put in funds?
Okay, I'll have to come back to you on that because I'm not the analyst and I'm not necessarily handling this. So let me come back to you on that. I can take a note if you can leave your email address, and I will come back to you on that.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your question, Shay, and thank you for your response, Shay. If we have any further questions, you may raise your hand now and we will give you an opportunity to ask your question. Thank you. I see we have no further questions today. On behalf of Vetiva Capital and our media partners at Frontier Africa Reports, we'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. We continue to encourage everyone to remain and keep safe, and we look forward to having you join us again tomorrow at 8:30. And we hope everyone has a good day. Good morning.